Welcome, dear listener, to this journey through the Middle Ages. As you settle in a moment of calm and relaxation, I invite you to share in the comments where in the world you are listening from, and what time of day is it for you? I always love to see how much our community of night owls has grown. If you enjoy immersing yourself in rich history to unwind, consider subscribing to more soothing channels. Stories like this. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the world not as you know it, but as it was centuries ago, before the hiss of showers, before the fragrance of soap, before the comfort of clean, running water at the turn of a tap. You are standing in the heart of a medieval town. The air is heavy, alive with scents that do not belong to your own time. Smoke curls from chimneys, sharp and bitter. The aroma of roasted meat drifts faintly from a tavern, mingled with the pungent tang of animals that live in the streets as freely as people. Horses, dogs, chickens, their presence is everywhere. The cobblestones beneath your feet are darkened by centuries of use, damp with the trickle of waste and rainwater. And as you breathe in, the question forms quietly in your mind. Why did people rarely wash themselves before? The answer is not simple. To understand it, you must first feel the rhythm of this world. Let yourself move among its people. You look to your left. A woman passes you, her linen veil drawn close around her face, a woven basket clutched in her hands. She is not bathed in days, perhaps weeks, yet she does not think herself unclean. Her cleanliness is measured differently, not by soap and water, but by the freshness of her linen shift, washed carefully in cold water and beaten against stones by the riverbank. To her, the fabric against her skin is enough. The body need not meet the cold, uncertain water of the river. You follow the narrow alley into a wider street. Here, merchants call out, their voices layered like a constant hum. Cloth from Flanders, spices from the east, tools wrought by the blacksmith's hammer. The crowd presses close around you, shoulders brushing against yours. The mingling of scents is thick sweat, smoke, earth, and wool, and yet nobody recoils. This is the fragrance of life itself. Bathing in this world is rare, not because water is absent, but because water is feared. The physicians of these centuries warn that warm baths open the pores, leaving the body vulnerable to invisible dangers drifting in the air. Illness seeps through exposed skin, they say. Better to remain dry, sealed, safe within the barrier of one's garments. But it is not only fear of sickness that keeps people away from washing. Bathing is labor. To heat water, you must chop wood, haul buckets from a well or river, fill a great wooden tub, and wait for the steam to rise. To pour all of this effort into a bath, and then to discard it after a single use, feels extravagant. For many families, it is easier to wipe the hands, the face, the feet, and to trust in clean linen for the rest. You notice a boy dart past, his tunic ragged, his hair tangled. He splashes through a shallow puddle, his bare feet dark with mud. Nobody scolds him. Dirt clings, but dirt is part of life. Tomorrow, his mother will shake out his shirt, beat it clean, and send him back to the streets. Step further into the town. Let your eyes rest on the wooden beams of houses that lean toward one another across the narrow streets. Torches flicker, their flames struggling in the evening wind. A faint bell tolls from the church tower solemn, steady. Its sound washes over the town like a tide, more constant than soap, more enduring than baths. You begin to see, this is a world without baths, but not without its own sense of order. Cleanliness is not absence of dirt. It is the discipline of cloth, the ritual of prayer, the fragrance of herbs crushed in the hand. And yet, a question lingers in you still. How did it come to this? How did the people of these centuries turn away from the very act of bathing something the Romans before them had cherished, perfected, and celebrated? To answer, you must walk further back in time, to the ruins of a world that once believed water could heal the body and elevate the spirit. The streets grow quieter as you wander. The market fades behind you, replaced by the soft shuffle of your own steps against stone. A chill settles in the air, and you feel it gathering around you like a cloak. As the night deepens, the present begins to dissolve, and with it, the medieval town slips into shadow. And then you hear it. The echo of water. Not the trickle of a gutter, not the puddles of rain in the street, but the strong, clear rush of water through carved stone channels. You turn, and before you rises the ghost of another city, another time Rome, the eternal city, where water once flowed like blood through the veins of marble aqueducts. The Romans loved to wash. For them, bathing was not merely cleanliness. It was a ritual of life, of health, of society. The therma, great public baths, stood as monuments to the union of body and spirit. Imagine stepping into one. The wide marble hall, the steam rising in gentle clouds, the murmur of voices echoing beneath vaulted ceilings. Men and women gathered in separate chambers, shedding not only dust and sweat, but the burdens of the day. Here, water was warmth. Water was healing. Water was the gift of the gods. But centuries passed, empires crumbled, and stone by stone, the aqueducts fell silent. The great baths cracked and emptied. The ritual faded. And as new centuries rose, suspicion replaced celebration. Where once water had been trusted, it was now feared. You stand at the edge of this memory, the ghost of steam still on your skin. You feel the contrast. You sense the loss. Back in the medieval streets, the baths are gone. The echoes of Rome are whispers carried on the wind, distant and forgotten. In their place stands a new belief, that the body is safer untouched, that purity is not in water, but in linen, in prayer, in the avoidance of risk. You walk again among the people of this world, the woman with her basket, the boy with mud on his feet, the merchant crying his wares. None of them think themselves unclean. To them, the absence of baths is not neglect, but wisdom. Water is for drinking, for cooking, for the blessing of baptism. For the rest, it is unnecessary, even dangerous. And yet, somewhere in their bones, the memory lingers. In the scent of crushed rosemary, in the cool touch of a damp cloth on the forehead of the sick, in the rare indulgence of a steaming tub prepared for a noble household, traces of Rome remain. You pause and listen once more. The question still hums quietly within you. The answers begin to form, like shadows taking shape. Fear of illness, the burden of labor, the absence of public baths, the shifting beliefs of culture and faith. But this is only the beginning. To understand fully, you must go deeper, to walk the centuries step by step, to feel the weight of their choices and the silence of their water. And so, you take another breath. You close your eyes once more, and the journey continues. You open your eyes again, and the medieval streets fade like mist before the morning sun. The air grows warmer, brighter, clearer. The sharp tang of smoke and mud is gone, replaced by the clean freshness of running water, the faint sweetness of olive oil, and the warm scent of sunlit stone. You are no longer in the Middle Ages. You are in Rome. The aqueduct towers above you, a ribbon of arches that marches across the landscape with impossible grace. From its heights, water flows unceasingly, channeled into the heart of the city. You follow the sound, the steady, confident rush of water, until it leads you to the entrance of a great building, its marble columns gleaming in the light. This is a thermae, one of Rome's public baths. And here, bathing is not a rare luxury, but the rhythm of daily life. Step inside. The first chamber welcomes you with cool air and echoes of footsteps. The floor beneath you is patterned in mosaic tiny tiles, forming images of gods, of dolphins, of vines that twist endlessly. Voices murmur all around, calm and unhurried. Men lay aside their tunics, women their stolas, moving into separate chambers where the water waits for them. You are guided further in, into the tepidorium, the warm room. Steam curls gently in the air, glistening on marble walls. The sound of dripping water is constant, soothing. Slaves and attendants move quietly with bronze basins, pouring streams of water that glitter in the light. Here, washing is not suspicion, not fear. It is pleasure. It is healing. The pores of the skin are opened gladly, not guarded. Oils are rubbed onto arms and shoulders, then scraped away with a curved striggle, carrying with them the dust and sweat of the day. Muscles loosen, minds relax. Beyond this lies the caldorium, the hot bath. The air thickens, heavy with steam. The floor warms your bare feet. You sink into the water, and heat surrounds you like a womb. It is not only the body that is cleansed, but the spirit. Conversation rises and falls around you. Politics, philosophy, gossip. In these halls, senators and soldiers, merchants and poets share the same water. And when the heat has run its course, when the body seeks relief, there is the frigidarium. Cold water shocks the skin, awakens the mind, restores balance. You gasp, but you smile. This is health. This is life. The baths are not private. They are for everyone. A coin buys you entrance. But within these walls, you are part of something greater, a community of water, of steam, of marble and time. Day after day, Rome breathes through these halls. Men wash, women bathe, children splash, the elderly soak their aching bones. Perfumed oils scent the air. Laughter and debate echo against painted ceilings. Water is celebration. Water is civilization. And then, slowly, it begins to end. The empire weakens. The aqueducts fall into disrepair. The great halls, once alive with warmth and light, grow cold and empty. Stone cracks, marble crumbles, silence creeps in. The baths close. The water is gone. And with it, something deeper slips away, the trust in water itself, the belief that to bathe is to heal, that to cleanse is to live. The centuries that follow will not remember the baths as they were, but as shadows. And in their place, a new fear takes root. Fear of exposure, fear of sickness, fear of what flows unseen in the water. You stand in the ruins now. The steam has faded, the laughter silenced. The mosaic floor lies broken, the once bright dolphins swimming forever in stillness. The Roman legacy is not entirely lost. Fragments survive in the stones, and faint memories carried forward. The culture of bathing, the joy of daily immersion, slips away. The world that follows will inherit suspicion instead of trust, modesty instead of ease, linen instead of water. And you will walk with them through those centuries of shadow where baths are rare and cleanliness is reimagined. The ruins surround you. The air is cool and dry. Vines creep along broken walls where once marble gleamed, and birds circle above arches that no longer carry water. You walk slowly through the empty halls, your footsteps echoing against silence. Imagine the absence. No laughter, no splash of water, no soft murmur of voices in the steam. Only dust, only stone, only the memory of what was. It is in this silence that a new chapter of history begins. The world without Rome forgets how to love water. Villages and kingdoms rise where the empire once stretched, but the aqueducts are abandoned, the baths left to crumble. Rivers and wells remain, but they are for drinking, for cooking, for necessity. Bathing, once daily, becomes occasional, exceptional, something distant. And with the loss of Rome's baths comes a change in thought. The early medieval mind, fragile and cautious, sees water differently. It is not a source of health, but of danger. The body, they believe, is vulnerable when wet, its defenses weakened. Better to keep the skin sealed, covered, safe. Better to rely on cloth to draw away sweat, on herbs to mask odor, than to risk the uncertain touch of water. You pass through a monastery, the sound of chanting filling the stone halls. Here, washing is measured, ritualistic. The monks cleanse their hands before meals, their feet before prayer. But the idea of full immersion is rare. Spiritual purity outweighs bodily purity. To be clean in the soul is far more important than to be clean in the flesh. And yet, echoes of Rome linger faintly. A noble household might still keep a great wooden tub filled with hot water once or twice a season. Perfumed oils are poured in, and attendants scrub the skin. But such baths are indulgences, not necessities. They are moments of luxury, not part of life's rhythm. The peasants, the townsfolk, the travelers, they rarely bathe at all. Perhaps once a year, at midsummer, in the river. Perhaps on a holy festival, when water is blessed. But the daily ritual of Rome is gone. The world shifts. What was once trust is now suspicion. Where Rome opened itself to water, the Middle Ages closed themselves away. You pause in the ruins one last time. The broken mosaics, the crumbling walls, the silence that has replaced the hum of life. You breathe it in, and you understand. To know why people rarely washed themselves before, you must carry with you the memory of what they lost. Because only then can you walk into the centuries of fear, of labor, of linen and herbs, and see how the absence of Rome shaped the habits of an age. The Roman legacy fades behind you, and once more the medieval streets return. Narrow, crowded, alive with scents and sounds. The baths are gone. Only the question remains. Step forward, and the next answer will unfold. You find yourself standing on a narrow bridge of rough-hewn wood, the sound of a river rushing beneath your feet. The water sparkles in the sunlight, fast and untamed, its current strong enough to pull down trees. Birds circle above, their cries sharp in the air. And yet, despite the beauty, the villagers nearby do not look upon the water with trust. Their eyes are wary. Their hands form signs against evil. Mothers call their children back from the riverbank, warning them not to wander too close. You realize, slowly, that the river is not a friend here. It is not a place of refreshment, nor of cleansing. It is a place of danger. The medieval world fears water. Not without reason. You walk further into the village, where narrow streets twist like tangled roots. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of animals, of waste, of smoke. There are no clean aqueducts now, no marble baths filled with steaming pools. Instead, water is drawn from wells, and those wells are shallow, often shared with livestock, sometimes fouled by waste. Rivers carry not only fish, but the runoff of fields, the refuse of towns, the decay of bodies. To drink unboiled water is to invite sickness. To bathe in it is to open the skin to invisible dangers. The people whisper of fevers, of rashes, of chills that follow bathing. They speak of unseen spirits that dwell in streams and lakes, luring the careless to their deaths. They recall stories of sudden floods, of drowned children, of whole families swept away when the river rose in anger. Step into the house of a medieval family. The room is dim, its only light from a small fire smoldering in the hearth. A wooden tub stands in a corner, dry and cracked with disuse. The family has other ways of cleansing, wiping themselves with rough linen, rubbing scented herbs onto the skin, burning incense to mask odors. Bathing, they believe, is dangerous. To submerge the body in water is to strip away its defenses. Better to keep the skin's protective layer of oils intact rather than washing it away. Outside, in the monastery, a monk copies texts by candlelight. In the margins of his manuscript, you see a note written in careful Latin. Aqua vulnerat corpus. Water wounds the body. He believes it. Many do. When illness spreads, water is blamed. Not the filth, not the waste that festers in the streets, but the act of bathing itself. People whisper that heat opens the pores, that sickness seeps in through the skin. They believe the plague lingers in vapors rising from damp earth, from foggy rivers, from bathhouse steam. And so, doors to the old bathhouses stay shut. Pools are left dry. Wooden tubs grow dusty. What was once daily ritual has become suspicion, avoidance. You stand again by the river, listening to its rush. You feel the villagers' fear, their mistrust. To you, water is life. To them, it is risk. The fear of water runs deeper than disease. It runs through faith, too. In sermons, priests warn of rivers as borders between worlds, of lakes as dwelling places of demons, of wells haunted by spirits. The holy water of the church is carefully controlled, blessed, and used sparingly, a tool of sanctity, not of washing. The body becomes a vessel for sin and salvation, not something to be cleansed with water. Purity is measured in prayer and confession, in acts of piety. To scrub the flesh means little compared to cleansing the soul. And so the fear grows, and with it the habit of avoiding baths. The seasons shift around you. Summer fades to autumn, autumn to winter, winter to spring. You travel from one village to another, and everywhere you go, you notice the same pattern. Water is near, yet distant. Rivers are for mills, for fishing, for carrying barges of grain, but not for bathing. Wells are for drinking and cooking, but the water is boiled, spiced, or mixed with ale. Direct contact is rare. Even kings and queens, cloaked in silk and gold, avoid the dangers of water. Their chambers smell of perfumes, of roses steeped in oil, of lavender rubbed onto linen. Servants change their underclothes often, believing the fresh fabric itself absorbs impurities from the body. Bathing is reserved for special occasions, perhaps a wedding, perhaps a holy festival, perhaps once or twice a year. Travel to Paris, to London, to Prague. The streets are narrow, the gutters overflowing, waste tossed from windows. A public bathhouse may still exist on the edge of town, a place where the desperate or the curious gather, but its reputation is not of health. Instead, it is whispered to be a place of immorality, of disease, of sin. Priests warn against them. Doctors caution that the heat makes the body weak. The baths that remain are shadows of Rome's grandeur, stripped of dignity, steeped in suspicion. The fear of water is not only in the mind, it is reinforced by catastrophe. You walk into a city touched by plague. The air is heavy. The bells toll endlessly. Bodies are carried through the streets. In the confusion, many remember that those who bathed often were among the first to fall sick. The conclusion seems clear. Bathing invites death. And so the cycle deepens. Illness rises. Water is blamed. Baths are abandoned. Filth grows. Illness spreads again. The fear feeds upon itself, century after century. Yet here and there, you glimpse resistance. In southern lands, where memories of Rome linger longer, nobles still keep private baths. In Islamic cities, far to the east and south, great bathhouses thrive, hammams filled with steam and laughter, places where water is embraced, not feared. But in most of medieval Europe, fear rules. You return once more to the riverbank. The water flows on, indifferent to human suspicion. It has always flowed. It will always flow. But for now, it is not a place of cleansing, nor of healing. It is a boundary, a threat, a mirror of superstition. The question echoes in your mind: why did people rarely wash themselves before? Because they feared water. And until that fear is broken, centuries will pass before the daily rhythm of bathing returns. You open a wooden chest in the dim light of a medieval chamber. Inside, folded carefully, are layers of linen shirts, soft and pale against the darkness. The scent of lavender clings faintly to the cloth. Outside, The streets reek of smoke and dung. But here, in this chamber, cleanliness is measured not by water, but by fabric. In the Middle Ages, clothes become your second skin. Instead of bathing, you change your linen. The undergarments, the layer closest to your body, absorb sweat, oils, and dirt. They are washed more often than the body itself. For a peasant, this may be once a week. For a noble, perhaps every few days. You slip a clean shirt over your head. The linen is cool, smooth, comforting. You feel fresher, lighter. It is as if the dirt of your body has been taken away with the old garment, folded and carried off to the wash house. The washerwomen work hard. You follow them down to the riverbank, where they kneel with rough hands and beating sticks. They scrub and pound, letting the current carry away the grime. Their laughter echoes over the water, their arms strong from endless labor. It is here, in the washing of clothes, that a kind of cleansing ritual survives. But you notice something else. The people speak often of purity, but rarely of skin. Cleanliness is woven into cloth, not flesh. A noblewoman will own dozens of linen gowns and shifts, changing them frequently to keep up appearances. A nobleman, dressed in layers of fine cloth, will parade his freshness not through scent of soap, but through spotless fabric. The body beneath remains untouched by water. Yet society accepts this illusion. You realize that in this world, the sight of fresh clothes is enough. The body may sweat, may smell faintly, but as long as the linen is white, the person is considered clean. In monasteries, monks preach against vanity, yet they too change their habits often. Clean clothing reflects a clean soul, one writes in his diary. Washing the body is suspect, but washing garments is virtuous. And so, fabric becomes the shield between human flesh and filth. You walk through the market square. Stalls overflow with bolts of fabric, rough wool for peasants, soft linen for the modestly wealthy, silks and velvets for the nobility. Each layer serves not only warmth and modesty, but also cleanliness. The tailor greets you warmly. He explains how the cut of garments has changed. Looser shifts to absorb more sweat, tighter sleeves to hide wear, fresh embroidery to mask stains. To be seen in worn or dirty clothes is shameful, more shameful than unwashed skin. You wander further, into the castle of a lord. Servants bustle about, carrying baskets of fresh laundry. The lord himself sits by the fire, resplendent in a new velvet tunic. He has not bathed in months, but his clothes shimmer with color and fragrance. He wears little pouches of herbs and flowers sewn into his sleeves, releasing faint scents of rosemary and sage as he moves. The illusion is powerful. You almost believe he is clean. For the poor, this substitution is more difficult. A peasant may own only 2 shifts, one to wear, one to wash. Their clothing is patched, faded, often stained with earth. And so the smell of sweat is more present, more noticeable. But even here, the ritual exists. A woman scrubs her children's shifts at the well, proud that at least once a week they can wear fresh linen. The cycle is clear. Laundered clothes replace bathing. And yet, beneath this practice lies an irony. The medieval fear of water keeps people from washing their bodies, but their constant contact with textiles, washing, boiling, scrubbing, means they remain healthier than one might expect. Parasites and fleas often hide in fabric, but the regular changing of undergarments reduces their numbers. The habit of laundering may, unknowingly, prevent greater suffering. You sit in a tavern, the air thick with smoke. A minstrel sings of noble knights, while the people around you drink ale. Their faces are sweaty, their hair unwashed, but their linen is bright, their garments layered, their collars white. They may not smell of roses, but they look clean enough for the world they inhabit. And you realize, in this medieval reality, the body itself becomes almost secondary. It is hidden beneath fabric, concealed beneath layers, judged only by what covers it. Cleanliness is a matter of appearance, not of flesh. And so the question lingers in your mind, whispered like a secret. How many centuries will pass before true cleanliness, the washing of the skin itself, returns? For now, you wear your fresh linen proudly, and the world believes you are clean. The air is thick with the smell of tallow candles, smoke from the hearth, and bodies pressed close together. You walk slowly through the narrow street, holding your breath as you pass the butcher's stall, where blood mixes with sawdust underfoot. The odor is sharp, metallic, and foul. And then you catch something else. A faint sweetness, a whiff of rosemary carried on the breeze. A pouch tied at a woman's belt, filled with dried herbs, releases its perfume as she moves. In a world where baths are rare, scent itself becomes a shield. You follow her into the church. Inside, the air is heavy with incense. Clouds of frankincense rise toward the vaulted ceiling, carrying with them the illusion of purity. The priests chant softly, their voices echoing, and you realize, here, fragrance is not just a mask for the unwashed body, it is a holy veil, a bridge between heaven and earth. People clutch posies of herbs as they kneel. They press sprigs of lavender or sage to their noses, guarding themselves against the smell of their neighbors and against disease. For many believe that foul air, the miasma, spreads sickness. Sweet smells, they think, protect the soul and the body. In noble courts, perfume becomes an art. You enter a chamber where a lady sits at her dressing table. Her hair is long and unwashed, but it glimmers in the candlelight. Beside her rests a carved ivory box filled with oils, rosewater, musk, ambergris. She dabs a little rose oil on her wrists, then rubs sage into her hair. The room fills with sweetness. She turns to you, smiling faintly. Her gown is heavy velvet, her skin untouched by soap for weeks, yet she smells like a garden in full bloom. It is an illusion, but a powerful one. You realize that fragrance is the true bath of this era. Not water, not soap, but herbs and perfumes. You wander deeper into medieval life. At the apothecary's stall, glass jars line the shelves, filled with powders and petals. The apothecary crushes dried lavender with a mortar and pestle, releasing a cloud of scent. He explains that these herbs do not just smell pleasant, they protect. Sweet basil to ward off plague, rosemary to strengthen the heart, rosewater to cool fevers. You hold a small vial of violet oil, lifting it carefully to your nose. The scent is soft, calming. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the filth of the streets seems far away. At feasts, nobles wear pomanders, small metal spheres, pierced with holes, filled with spices and herbs. They dangle from belts or hang on chains around the neck. As the lords and ladies eat roast meat and drink sweet wine, their pomanders release the fragrance of cloves, cinnamon, or myrrh. The body may remain unwashed, but the air around them is perfumed. In the city streets, vendors sell bunches of herbs to common folk. Housewives hang them in doorways, stuff them into mattresses, or burn them in the hearth. Every household has its scent ritual, whether out of luxury or necessity. Yet you notice something more profound. Scent is not only for masking dirt. It becomes a kind of language. A noble woman chooses rose oil to show refinement, musk to suggest passion, lavender for calm piety. A knight returning from the east carries exotic spices that whisper of far-off lands. Each fragrance tells a story. You step into a monastery garden. Monks bend over rows of herbs, their hands gentle, their prayers soft. They cultivate sage, mint, and thyme, not only for medicine, but for fragrance. For them, tending the garden is a form of devotion. The air is alive with the mingling of scents. And as you stand there, Inhaling deeply, you realize something important. In this medieval world, where washing is rare and water feared, perfume and herbs are not luxuries alone. They are survival. They are shields against disease, disguises for the body, symbols of holiness, and marks of wealth. The world may not be clean, but it smells alive. And you, walking through its scented gardens, smoky taverns, and perfumed courts, feel the strange beauty of it all. Close your eyes. Imagine standing before a wooden tub filled with steaming water. To you, in the modern world, it might feel inviting a bath after a long day. But in the Middle Ages, that same tub would stir not comfort, but fear. You dip your hand into the water, and the warmth clings to your skin. For a medieval physician, this moment is dangerous. He warns, the pores of the body open when warmed. Through those pores, the bad airs, the miasmas, will enter. You look around. The world is full of invisible threats. Plague, fever, sickness, none of them fully understood. The belief is simple. Clean water, instead of healing, weakens the body's defenses. A warm bath may soothe, but it also invites death. You walk through the dim corridors of a 14th century home. A child coughs in the corner, her face pale. The mother mutters that she will not bathe the girl, for the doctor said it would only worsen the illness. Instead, she rubs the child's skin with scented cloths and changes her linen. The tub stands unused, gathering dust. Out in the streets, rumors spread. People whisper that public bathhouses are places of plague. They imagine steam and sweat mingling with foul air, turning into poison. Once bathhouses were lively places, echoes of Roman luxury. But now, suspicion grows. Priests warn against them. The city council shutters their doors. You pass one such abandoned bathhouse. Its windows are dark, its sign faded. Once filled with laughter, splashing, and warmth, now it feels haunted. People cross themselves as they walk by, muttering that too much washing is unholy, unnatural. And you realize this fear is not born of ignorance alone. It is born of survival. In a world where disease strikes without mercy, people cling to what explanations they can find. And water, once pure and cleansing, becomes an enemy. You travel forward in time into the 16th and 17th centuries. The Renaissance brings new learning, but the fear of water lingers. Doctors still advise against full immersion. Instead, they recommend wiping the skin with dry cloths or bathing only specific parts of the body: the hands, the face, the feet. A nobleman prepares for the day. Servants bring him a basin of cold water. He dips his fingers, splashes his face, and wipes his eyes. But he will not step into a tub. Instead, he dons fresh linen, perfumed and crisp. To him, cleanliness is visible in fabric, not in skin. And yet not all share this fear. In Italy, some wealthy families keep private baths, lined with marble, warmed with fires. In the Ottoman Empire, great hammams still flourish, their steam halls filled with ritual and care. You walk through one. The air is heavy with heat. The sound of running water echoes against stone. Men scrub their skin with vigor. Women soak in scented pools. To them, water is life, not death. But back in Northern Europe, suspicion remains. You sit in a tavern, listening as men discuss the plague that has swept through the city once more. They nod gravely, agreeing that it comes from bad airs, from dampness, from the weakening of bodies by baths. One man swears that his cousin died after soaking too long in warm water. The others nod, certain it must be true. The myths grow. Some say that water carries invisible worms that creep beneath the skin. Others believe that washing the head too often drives madness. Pregnant women are warned never to bathe, lest the baby be harmed. Slowly, water becomes not a source of health, but of dread. And yet, you notice small contradictions. In times of great festivity, coronations, royal weddings, Midsummer feasts, baths are prepared, sometimes luxuriously. Perfumed oils are added. Petals float on the surface. For one night, at least, people indulge. But the next day, the old warnings return. You walk once more through the medieval street. Children play in the mud, their skin streaked with dirt. A woman fetches water from the well, careful not to spill on her dress. A priest passes by, his robes smelling faintly of incense, and you, moving among them, understand the paradox. The fear of water is not absolute. It is selective, shaped by place, by class, by belief. In monasteries, monks wash their hands before meals. In noble halls, faces are cleansed with rosewater. In villages, feet are scrubbed after long days in the fields. But the idea of the full bath, of immersing the body in water often, remains dangerous in the imagination. As you breathe in the smoky, perfumed air of this world, you feel the weight of its caution. And you realize fear is as much a part of hygiene as water itself. You stand inside a medieval chamber where the air is cool and heavy with the faint scent of smoke and lavender. The walls are draped with tapestries, the floor covered with rushes. At first glance, it does not feel clean in the modern sense. The air is thick, the light dim. Yet for the people of this time, cleanliness has a different meaning. You watch as a noblewoman rises from her bed. She does not step toward a bath. Instead, her maid brings her fresh linen, a long chemise, white and finely woven. The woman slips into it, and in that moment, she feels refreshed. The linen, smooth against her skin, will absorb the oils, the sweat, the dirt. To her, this is bathing. You touch the fabric yourself. It is cool, almost alive, breathing with the body. Linen made from flax is prized for its purity. It clings gently, drawing away the unseen impurities that cling to the skin. And so, each morning, the ritual is not water, but cloth. A new garment, clean and white, marks the start of the day. In the villages, you see the same practice, though humbler. A peasant woman rises before dawn, shakes out her rougher linen shift, and changes it after long work in the fields. She may not have many garments, but she understands the same truth. Changing linen means washing the body without water. As you walk through town, you notice how important fabric has become to the idea of hygiene. The rich display endless layers of linen, constantly changed, constantly washed. Servants boil them, scrub them with lye, hang them in the wind to dry. The poor may own fewer garments, but still cling to the practice of exchanging shifts as a way of staying clean. The smell of soap lingers faintly in the air. But this is not soap for skin. It is soap for linen. The cloth carries the burden of cleanliness, and so people scrub it, bleach it, stretch it on grassy fields to whiten in the sun. Fresh linen against the body feels as renewing as a plunge into a bath. You pause, realizing how strange it feels to modern ears. Cleanliness through clothing, washing without water. But to the medieval mind, it makes sense. The body is fragile, easily harmed by exposure. Linen, however, is safe. Linen protects, linen absorbs, linen heals. And so, morning after morning, evening after evening, people cleanse themselves not by stepping into tubs, but by wrapping themselves in cloth. To wear linen is to be pure. You move forward into a noble household, where laundry is an endless task. Servants bend over steaming cauldrons, stirring shirts, chemises, coifs, and sheets. The scent of lye soap stings your nose. The water is harsh, the labor exhausting, but the result is clear. Bright linen, crisp and white. The lady of the house inspects the work. She lifts a chemise to the light, ensuring it shines clean. For her, this is not only hygiene, it is status. To be wrapped in spotless linen is to show wealth and purity. The poor cannot afford so many changes of clothes. But the rich can change daily, even twice daily. Their bodies are always wrapped in clean cloth, their skin untouched by dirt. You step into the streets, where merchants proudly display bolts of linen for sale. The fabric is costly, prized above wool or hemp. People invest not only for clothing, but for the promise of health. The whiter the linen, the cleaner the person who wears it. In a monastery, you see the same devotion. Monks rise for prayers, their habits rough and simple, but beneath them, they wear fresh linen. The rule of Saint Benedict insists on moderation, yet still allows for clean undergarments. To serve God, one must remain pure, and linen provides that purity. And then you hear a phrase whispered by medieval doctors. Linen is the best soap. To them, it is not metaphor. They truly believe that cloth cleanses, drawing out sweat and filth, leaving the skin refreshed. Instead of submerging in water, the body cleans itself by changing shifts. The belief spreads into every layer of society. Mothers scrub their children's garments rather than their bodies. Travelers carry spare linen in their saddlebags. Soldiers in camp are advised to change their shirts when they cannot wash. Linen becomes medicine, shield, and ritual combined. And you, walking among them, begin to feel the texture of history. You imagine the sensation of slipping into cool fabric after a long day, the relief it brings, the comfort against the skin. You understand how they saw this as a kind of invisible bath, a renewal without water. Of course, the body still gathers dust, sweat, and odors. You notice it in the crowded streets, the mixture of smoke, of leather, of unwashed hair. Yet amid all this, the white shimmer of linen peeks from sleeves and collars. A strange contradiction, dirt and purity side by side. As night falls, you sit beside a peasant fire where shifts dry on a line above the hearth. The crackling flames illuminate their pale folds. Tomorrow, the family will rise and change into them, feeling once again that brief moment of cleanliness. And in that glow, you realize the truth. Medieval people did not see themselves as dirty. They believed they were clean through the ritual of linen. Their soap was not water, not baths, but fabric woven from flax, whitened by sun, kissed by wind. For them, each change of clothes was a quiet rebirth. You leave behind the glowing hearth where linen dried and step into the bustling streets of a medieval city. Here, another layer of cleanliness awaits you. People may have relied on linen to absorb sweat, but still the body, the home, the street all carry scents. And where water does not often flow, perfume and herbs rise to the rescue. At first, the smell of the market overwhelms you. Stalls overflow with salted fish, hanging meat, and wheels of cheese. Horses clatter past, leaving their traces on the cobblestones. Smoke drifts from chimneys, mixing with the scent of leather, wool, and tallow. This is the fragrance of a medieval town, heavy, earthy, and persistent. But then, weaving through the crowd, you notice small pockets of sweetness. A nobleman passes by, his cloak faintly perfumed with rosewater. A merchant's wife carries a pomander, a small metal orb pierced with patterns, filled with cloves and cinnamon. She holds it close to her nose, warding off what she believes to be dangerous airs. A monk sprinkles herbs on the floor of a church, so that every footstep releases their scent into the holy space. Perfume, you realize, is not just vanity. It is medicine, protection, and even spiritual defense. The medieval mind believes that illness travels through miasma, bad air, foul odors that corrupt the body. To mask the smell is to fight disease. A sweet fragrance is not simply pleasant. It is life-saving. You enter a noble household once more. The lady of the house gestures to her servants. They scatter bundles of dried lavender in the bedchambers, tuck rosemary under the mattresses, and burn juniper in the fireplace. The air becomes fragrant, sharp, almost sacred. You breathe deeply, and for a moment, the stench of the street outside disappears. But this ritual is not limited to the rich. Even in villages, women gather herbs, thyme, sage, mint, and chamomile. They hang them in doorways, scatter them across rush-covered floors, and boil them into infusions to wash hands and faces. These scents weave through daily life, transforming modest homes into pockets of freshness. You begin to notice how deeply fragrance and faith intertwine. In churches, incense clouds rise toward vaulted ceilings. The smoke is not only an offering to God, but also a barrier against corruption. To stand in the haze of frankincense and myrrh is to feel both holy and protected. The practice reaches into the very body itself. People chew cloves to sweeten breath. They rub scented oils on their wrists and temples. Some even carry sprigs of herbs tucked in their clothing, believing that as they walk, they are shielded from invisible threats. And here, in this world without daily baths, perfume and herbs become their own form of hygiene. They mask what cannot be washed away. They create a bubble of freshness in an otherwise heavy-smelling world. You realize, with a shiver of understanding, that for them, fragrance is survival. Night descends, and you follow the trail of scent into the private chambers of the wealthy. There, perfumes are distilled with care. Glass vessels sit over flames, capturing the essence of roses, violets, and oranges. Apothecaries sell tiny bottles of concentrated oils, more precious than gold. To dab a drop on one's skin is to declare refinement, wealth, and health. But not only nobles indulge. In the crowded city, you see artisans carrying small bags filled with crushed herbs. They hang them from belts or wear them around their necks. A poor laborer chews parsley after a long day, believing it cleanses his mouth. A midwife burns sage to purify the air of the birthing room. Even those with little coin find ways to weave fragrance into their lives. Perfume also becomes armor against the unseen. During outbreaks of plague, physicians wear beaked masks stuffed with strong herbs, camphor, mint, and cloves. They believe the sharp scent will block the poisonous air. People carry pomanders everywhere, filling them with nutmeg, ambergris, or musk. Streets, once foul, now carry waves of mingled aromas, sickness and fear hidden under layers of spice. And you cannot ignore the symbolism. Fragrance carries meaning beyond cleanliness. To wear rosewater is to embody purity. To anoint with musk is to display sensual power. To burn frankincense is to invite the divine. Every scent tells a story, woven into the fabric of medieval life. Back in the countryside, you sit with villagers as they prepare bundles of herbs. They tie them with rough twine, hang them in kitchens, stables, and even privies. When the wind blows, the air is softened, lifted, brightened. For them, these simple plants are as essential as firewood or bread. Once again, you think of linen. Yesterday, it was the body's invisible soap. Today, fragrance is its invisible bath. The two together, fresh cloth and sweet herbs, form the essence of medieval cleanliness. Where water fails, fabric and scent prevail. You rise, step into the starlit night, and inhale. The streets are still heavy with the odors of life, but here and there, notes of lavender, rosemary, and incense linger. You feel yourself carried by them, as if through time itself. And so you understand, in this world, to be clean is not to be washed, but to be clothed in linen and crowned with fragrance. That is how people bathed without water. The night air still carries lavender and rosemary from the houses you passed, but beneath it, heavier scents stir: smoke, dung, damp stone. You pause, nose lifted, and realize something profound in the Middle Ages. Your nose is more than a sense. It is your compass, your warning bell, your judge. Here, smell is knowledge. The medieval world believes that the body's health the soul's purity, and even the city's order are all written in the language of scent. To smell well is to live well. To reek is to risk not only disease, but shame. You step inside a physician's chamber. Scrolls lie open, filled with diagrams of humors and the flow of bodily vapors. The physician holds a flask to his nose. Within is urine, carefully collected from a patient. He sniffs, frowns, and declares, "Too sweet, the liver is corrupted." For him, diagnosis begins with smell. Your nose is the most direct path to the secrets of the body. In daily life, too, the nose is the judge. Walk into a home, and you immediately read its story. A clean house smells of herbs and rushes. A careless one reeks of rot. A person's character is likewise betrayed by scent. A noble, perfumed with rosewater, is admired not just for wealth, but for virtue. A beggar with the stench of filth may be seen as morally fallen. In this world, odor is morality's twin. The church reinforces this. To enter a holy place is to be enveloped in incense. Sweetness rises toward heaven, a sign of sanctity. To stink is to carry sin. Priests speak of hell as a place of sulfur and foul vapors. Paradise, by contrast, is perfumed. You do not simply smell the divine, you prove your closeness to it by smelling of purity yourself. You pass a market stall where herbs are sold, and watch as a woman selects bunches of thyme and sage, not for cooking, but to carry as charms. She believes they will guard her from plague, which she imagines as a stench riding on the wind. She tells you, bad air makes bad flesh. Her words echo the common wisdom of the time. What stinks corrupts. What is fragrant heals. Even social order leans on the nose. Laws forbid butchers from keeping slaughterhouses within city walls, not only for cleanliness, but because their trade offends the air. Tanners and dyers are pushed to the edges of town, their livelihoods marked as polluting. Smell is not only about hygiene, it is a marker of where you belong. The medieval nose is always at work. It guides whom to trust, whom to avoid, where to walk, how to pray. It tells you if your food is spoiled, if your neighbor is ill, if your own soul is in danger. And so, you begin to notice, in this world, the act of smelling is as vital as breathing itself. You follow your nose further, into the darker corners of the city. There, the scents shift. A narrow alley reeks of waste, thrown from windows into the gutter. The odor clings to the walls, the stones, the very air. Children play nearby, accustomed to it. You realize how quickly the medieval nose learns to distinguish degrees of foulness. What is tolerable? What is dangerous? What is sinful? Plague years sharpen this instinct even further. Physicians warn of pestilential airs, urging people to carry strong-smelling herbs or burn fires of resinous wood. They advise, keep the nose filled with good scents, and corruption shall not enter. The nose is a fortress gate. What passes through it may heal or kill. But smell is not only fear. It is also desire, intimacy, and delight. Lovers exchange gifts of perfume. A knight might wear a ribbon scented with his lady's oils, carrying her essence into battle. A bride's chamber is filled with flowers and incense, ensuring that her union is blessed not only with beauty, but with fragrance. To love, too, is to smell. In literature, poets use scent as metaphor. A virtuous maiden smells sweeter than violets. A corrupt man stinks of deceit. The medieval ear hears smell as symbol, the invisible proof of what the eye may miss. You step again into a church, where incense smoke curls upward. A priest tells his congregation, "The righteous are known by their fragrance, the wicked by their stench." The people nod, for to them this is not mere poetry, it is truth. In monasteries, the nose shapes daily routine. The infirmarian checks the air of the dormitory, ensuring it is not too stale. The cook scents the food, guarding against rot. Monks gather herbs, not only to heal the body, but to keep corruption at bay. Their silence is broken only by the hiss of herbs on the hearth, releasing fragrance that mingles with prayer. Even the graveyard carries meaning for the nose. Legends speak of saints whose bodies, when exhumed, release not decay, but the odor of sanctity, a fragrance of roses or spices, proof of divine favor. The stench of death is natural. The scent of heaven is miraculous. And so, walking these medieval streets, you begin to understand. The nose is the most trusted sense. Sight may deceive, words may lie, but smell cannot be hidden. It reveals health, status, morality, even the state of the soul. You inhale one last time. The air is thick, layered, alive. Beneath the stench of life lies a truth. In the Middle Ages, to smell was to know. You stand at the edge of a river, its surface trembling with sunlight. For centuries, people feared this element, thinking it could seep sickness into the skin. But now, slowly, the world begins to change. The air smells different here, fresher, freer, as though the water itself has been waiting for humanity to return. The Renaissance awakens not only art and knowledge, but a new intimacy with water. Scholars rediscover texts from Rome and Greece, where bathing was celebrated as both hygiene and culture. Architects study ancient aqueducts, imagining once more a city that flows with fountains. Physicians reconsider old fears, wondering if perhaps water, when used wisely, may heal instead of harm. You wander through a town square and hear the sound of a fountain spilling. Not decorative, only the people gather to wash their hands, to drink, to refresh themselves. Children play around it, splashing their faces. Merchants rinse fruit in its streams. The very sight of running water begins to seem less threatening, more natural. In the homes of the wealthy, bathing tubs reappear, copper or wooden, lined with cloth, filled with warm water, perfumed with herbs. You enter one such chamber, where a servant pours steaming liquid from a kettle. A lady lowers herself slowly into the tub, sighing with relief. She is not afraid. She believes this bath strengthens her. The scent of rosemary rises with the steam, a counter to all fears of bad air. Physicians, too, begin to recommend measured bathing. Not every day, not recklessly, but as a cure for certain ailments, sore muscles, melancholy, sluggish digestion. A warm bath, they say, opens the pores gently, while herbs cleanse the humors. The idea of water as poison starts to give way to water as medicine. You travel further, into great cities. In Florence, fountains feed courtyards. In Paris, kings commission aqueducts. In London, public bathhouses flicker back into existence, though never as freely as before. The language shifts. Water is not only danger, but also beauty, comfort, even sophistication. At court, perfume and cloth remain important, but now a hint of bathing is fashionable. To smell fresh is no longer only to smell of spice or flower. It is to smell of pure water itself. Nobles begin to boast of their baths, of imported soaps, of tubs carved from marble. Cleanliness becomes a new form of elegance. You can almost feel it yourself. The fear receding, the skin softening, the spirit lightening. Slowly, cautiously, the medieval suspicion of water gives way to the Renaissance embrace of it. The change is not instant. Many still whisper warnings. Too much bathing weakens the body, opens it to illness. But gradually, practice overcomes fear. Experience shows that water, when heated, scented, and controlled, refreshes rather than harms. You walk along a canal in Venice. Gondolas float past, carrying noblemen who commission elaborate bath chambers in their palaces. Some are tiled in bright patterns, echoing the baths of Byzantium. They invite guests to share these spaces, reviving fragments of the social bathing once lost. Music drifts through open windows, mingling with the sound of pouring water. Across Europe, soaps improve. Olive oil, lye, and herbs combine into smoother, scented bars. To wash with them becomes not just necessity, but pleasure. You handle a small cake of lavender soap, its fragrance subtle but enduring. Washing, once feared, now feels like a luxury. The Protestant Reformation adds another layer. Some reformers speak of the body as a vessel of discipline. Cleanliness becomes associated with godliness, not through incense or perfume, but through physical washing. To keep the body clean is to honor God with order. In this way, spiritual reform accelerates the practical embrace of bathing. Science, too, lends its weight. New discoveries in anatomy, circulation, and disease begin to erode the old theory of humors. Slowly, physicians realize that filth breeds illness more directly than water does. The miasma theory, once blaming water itself, starts to turn against stagnant waste. Flowing water, especially, gains a reputation for purity. By the 17th century, you see riverside towns where people swim for recreation. Children leap from piers, their laughter echoing. Soldiers bathe before campaigns. Even monarchs, once cautious, commission elaborate bathing rooms. The court of Louis XIV perfumes its baths with orange blossoms, transforming hygiene into theater. Still, not everyone returns to water fully. In colder regions, winters discourage bathing. In poorer districts, water remains scarce. But the idea has shifted permanently. No longer do people believe that all water is poison. Instead, they believe in the balance. Controlled, heated, perfumed water is an ally. As you watch a young boy dive into the river, the splash cool against the warm air, you realize that something essential has been restored. The human body, long estranged from its oldest companion, is finding its way back. You close your eyes, listening to the sound of flowing streams, and breathe deeply. The scent of herbs, the warmth of steam, the rush of water, all tell you the same story. The world is learning, once more, to trust in the cleansing power of water. You awaken to a new century, where light itself seems sharper, ideas brighter, and reason louder than ever before. The world is in motion. Books are printed faster, cities expand, and curiosity fuels every conversation in coffee houses and salons. The Enlightenment has arrived, and with it, a new way of seeing not only society, but the human body itself. You walk through a bustling 18th century street. Paved stones echo with the wheels of carriages, vendors shout in corners, and fountains glimmer with sculpted marble. But this time, the water is not simply decoration. It is part of a growing belief that health can be shaped by environment, by air, by water, by order. Cleanliness is no longer superstition. It is becoming science. Step inside a physician's chamber. On his desk lie books with crisp engravings of anatomy. Charts of veins, lungs, and skin spread across the table. He explains to a curious student. The body is a system, delicate and precise. Dirt and decay disturb it. Cleanliness protects it. The student nods eagerly, taking notes. You realize you are witnessing the birth of modern hygiene. Bathing becomes less an indulgence of nobles and more a duty of citizens. You hear philosophers argue that a clean body fosters a clean mind. To educate, one insists, is to wash away ignorance, and should we not wash the body with equal care? In the great houses of Paris and Vienna, bathrooms are built with greater frequency. Tiles gleam white, copper tubs shine, and servants carry heated water daily. Soap makers flourish, producing bars scented with lemon, rose, and lavender. You run your hand along a smooth bar of Marseille soap, its fragrance crisp and uplifting. Washing, once fearful, now carries the aura of progress. But it is not only the rich who change. Public health begins to matter. In London, officials debate how to supply clean water to districts plagued by disease. In Berlin, philosophers praise the virtue of daily washing. Pamphlets circulate, encouraging families to bathe children regularly, to wash linens, to keep streets clear of filth. You wander through one of the new bathhouses, not medieval and dim, but bright, tiled, and orderly. Water gushes through pipes heated by ingenious stoves. People speak not of sin or weakness, but of health and vigor. The steam rises, scented with eucalyptus, and the room hums with calm. You feel the warmth seep into your own skin, softening, loosening, renewing. Everywhere you turn, you sense a shift. Where once water was feared, now it is tamed, channeled, and celebrated. The Enlightenment does not worship water blindly, but it no longer mistrusts it. Instead, it studies, measures, and applies it. The body is no longer an accidental vessel of humors. It is a machine, cared for by cleanliness, maintained by washing. And as you walk back out into the bright streets, hearing fountains splash and soap sellers call, you feel it clearly. This is not only a new philosophy, it is a new intimacy between humanity and water. The Enlightenment also transforms cities themselves. You walk down avenues lined with lampposts, where architects speak of order and symmetry. Just as streets are widened for beauty and traffic, water systems are redesigned for cleanliness. Engineers draft plans for aqueducts, pumps, and sewers, arguing that a healthy city must flow like a clean body. In Paris, fountains become landmarks of civic pride. Children drink freely. Women rinse baskets of fruit. Men wash their faces before work. In London, physicians begin linking dirty water with disease, slowly anticipating the discoveries of the century to come. You overhear them warn, "It is not the bath that sickens us. It is the filth we allow to remain." The reversal is almost complete. In private life, rituals of bathing deepen. Some advocate cold baths for strength, plunging into rivers at dawn. Others prefer warm soaks, steeped with chamomile or mint, for calm and sleep. Manuals circulate, instructing families on how often to wash, how to dry clothes, how to keep homes aired, and linens pure. For the first time, bathing becomes not only personal, but cultural, a mark of civility. Philosophers echo the same thought. Society itself must be cleansed. As reason washes ignorance, one writes, so water must wash our very bodies. Cleanliness becomes virtue, tied not only to health, but to morality, discipline, and identity. You visit a school where children are taught not just letters, but habits of washing hands and faces. The sound of water running in basins fills the courtyard. A teacher explains, a child who learns to wash daily learns also to live orderly, to think clearly. You watch the children smile, splashing one another, unaware that they are embodying a cultural revolution. The Enlightenment linked knowledge, health, and water into a single chain. And as science grows sharper, microscopes peering into hidden worlds, chemistry unlocking new soaps and disinfectants, the connection between dirt and disease becomes clearer. The old medieval fear of water dissolves, replaced by a new fear of uncleanliness itself. At night, you rest in an inn. In your chamber stands a small wooden tub filled with warm water. A bar of lemon soap rests nearby, its fragrance sharp in the candlelight. You lower yourself slowly, and the water clasps you like a familiar friend. The fatigue of travel melts away. Outside, the street hums with coaches and footsteps, but inside, the bath holds you in silence. And as you drift in that warmth, you realize how far the world has come. Where once water was the enemy, now it is the companion of reason. The Enlightenment has returned humanity to its oldest rhythm, the cleansing, flowing, renewing embrace of water. You step into the heart of an industrial city. The air is thick, heavy with smoke and soot. Chimneys rise into the sky like dark towers, spilling black plumes into the clouds. Streets bustle with carts and workers, the clatter of iron on cobblestone echoing through narrow alleys. This is no medieval town, no Renaissance square of fountains. This is the New World, and it is filthy. You smell it before you see it. The stench of coal smoke mixed with human waste. Tenements crowd together, stacked high with families, with no running water, no private space. Children play in the mud of open sewers. Laundry hangs limp, gray with soot. The city grows faster than its ability to clean itself. And with the growth come the old enemies: disease, fever, plague. You follow a physician as he walks the alleys, notebook in hand. He writes of cholera sweeping through families, of typhoid stealing lives in days. The miasma theory still lingers, but more and more, evidence points to water itself, not its steam or its vapors, but its contamination. Polluted wells, tainted rivers, drains that overflow. The people begin to realize cleanliness is no longer a matter of fashion or ritual. It is survival. In response, a movement grows. Reformers, doctors, city leaders all cry for public hygiene. If private baths are impossible for the poor, then public baths must be built. And so the first great houses of cleansing rise among the factories. You enter one, a vast building of brick and tile, echoing with the sound of running water. Inside, rows of tubs stand ready, some filled with warm water, piped from great boilers in the basement. Men and women line up, clutching towels, waiting for their turn. Steam fogs the windows, carrying the scent of soap and sweat. It is not luxury. It is not marble. It is necessity. The atmosphere is strange, part clinic, part temple. The poor, who have never known the feel of warm water embracing their skin, sink slowly into the tubs, eyes closing in disbelief. For the first time, their bodies are cleansed of soot and grime, their pores opening not to poison, but to relief. The reformers call it moral as well as medical. To wash the body is to lift the spirit, to preserve the dignity of even the poorest. Children laugh as attendants hose them down. Workers, muscles aching from endless shifts, find a moment of peace. Soap foams in their hands, something once rare, now spreading through every class. And outside, waterworks rise. Engineers design pumping stations, aqueducts, and sewage systems. Iron pipes snake beneath the city streets, carrying fresh water in and wastewater out. London, Paris, Berlin, New York all undergo transformations. Where once a single, well-served a block, now whole districts are supplied by reservoirs and underground channels. For the first time in centuries, you see the return of abundance, water flowing not just for the elite, but for the masses. Not the marble splendor of Rome, but the brick and iron resilience of the machine age. You run your fingers along the damp tiles of the bathhouse, listening to the drip of water, the sighs of relief, the hum of voices rising like prayer. Here, amid the soot and the smoke, a new respect for cleanliness takes root, born not of fear, not of fashion, but of necessity, science, and compassion. You walk deeper into the city, where industrial growth has pushed humanity to its limits. Tenement rooms house whole families in a single space, diseases spreading faster than fire. Reformers campaign fiercely. Public baths for every neighborhood, clean water for every home. Their words ring with urgency. Without cleanliness, there can be no civilization. The newspapers echo with debate. Some scoff at the expense, but cholera outbreaks silence the doubters. Again and again, epidemics prove what reformers already know. Where filth remains, death follows. In London, the Great Stink of 1858 drives Parliament itself from Westminster, the smell of sewage rising so thick it chokes the lawmakers. That summer, no one can deny the truth. Sanitation is survival. Engineers like Joseph Bazalgette design vast sewer networks, redirecting waste beneath the city. Their brick tunnels stretch for miles, unseen rivers carrying away the danger. And above ground, public baths multiply. By the late 19th century, almost every major city has them, plain but vital sanctuaries of water. You step inside another, this one in Manchester. Rows of shower stalls line the walls, iron nozzles spraying fresh water. It is faster than tubs, more efficient. Workers come after long shifts, peeling away layers of coal dust. The hiss of water against skin fills the air like rain on stone. Soap slips between calloused fingers, carrying black rivulets down the drains. For a moment, the worker is not only cleansed, but renewed. In some places, public baths are linked with swimming pools, encouraging not only hygiene, but recreation. You watch young men dive into the cool water, laughter echoing beneath the vaulted ceiling. Cleanliness, once a duty, becomes a kind of pleasure again, a joy remembered from ancient Rome, reshaped for the modern age. The culture shifts. Posters encourage bathing weekly, then daily. Soap manufacturers advertise bars of ivory whiteness scented with lavender, promising not only health, but respectability. To be clean is no longer a mark of wealth alone, it is the standard of modern life. Employers encourage workers to bathe. Schools teach children to wash their hands. Slowly, habits form that will become second nature in centuries to come. You walk through the streets at dusk. Lamps glow in the fog, but there's a new brightness in the air. Windows glisten cleaner, laundry dries whiter, children's faces shine after visits to the bath. The city, though still smogged and noisy, smells fresher than before. Soap and steam rise like invisible guardians, pushing back against the shadows of disease. Here, in the heart of the Industrial Revolution, water has returned not only as luxury or medicine, but as a public right. The body, once neglected, once feared, is at last recognized as worthy of care, of dignity, of daily renewal. And you, standing in the warm, echoing chamber of a public bathhouse, can almost feel history shifting around you. The hum of machines outside, the hiss of water inside, the beating heart of progress, all merge together in a rhythm that says, cleanliness is no longer rare. It is becoming life itself. Close your eyes once more. You have walked long roads with me, through stone-paved streets that echoed with the sound of wooden wheels, through taverns thick with smoke, through chambers where kings, queens, and peasants alike lived, in a world where water was not an everyday companion. Tonight, our journey reaches its end. But before we part, let us gently step back and gather what we have seen. Imagine yourself, once more, in the dim candlelight of a medieval chamber. The walls of stone hold the chill of centuries, and the air is faint with the scent of herbs hung to mask the mustiness. You sit before a basin of cold water, watching how the surface trembles with every draft that slips in through the cracks. This is the water you were given to wash your hands and face. No steam, no soap, no luxury. Just a ritual to refresh, not to cleanse. The people around you do not miss the bath. They have not grown up with showers or tubs. Instead, they trust linen. White shirts, changed often, are thought to pull the dirt from the skin. Perfumes of rosewater, lavender, and rosemary drift through noble halls, disguising sweat with sweetness. A noblewoman sits beside you, her hair brushed with scented oils, her gown shimmering with woven patterns. She is clean in her own way, though not by our standards. And as you walk outside, the world confirms it. The streets are alive with humanity and animals alike. Horses, pigs, chickens, scratching in the dust. Waste flows in narrow gutters. The air is thick. Yet life goes on. People laugh, trade, sing. They are not ashamed, because this is their normal. Their world is not defined by soap and steam. You have seen why. The fear of water opening pores, the belief that illness seeps in through damp skin, the memory of plagues and warnings from the church. You have watched bathhouses close their doors, condemned as sinful places of temptation and disease. And you have seen others, in warmer lands, the Islamic cities of Cordoba, Damascus, Cairo, where baths still flourish, where the body is seen as sacred, worthy of washing. The contrast lingers in your thoughts. In one part of the world, bathing declines. In another, it thrives. Two ways of life existing side by side, separated not by time, but by belief. Now centuries pass before your eyes. You see the gradual shift. Soap, once rare, grows more common. Medical ideas evolve. By the Renaissance, nobles rediscover the joys of bathing, though carefully, cautiously. Perfumes are still trusted more than water. And then, the Enlightenment dawns, whispering of science, hygiene, and discovery. But before all that, you are still here, in this candlelit room, staring at your own reflection in a bronze mirror. Do you feel clean, or do you feel the weight of centuries of misunderstanding? Let the thought rest. Let the chamber fade. You are about to leave. Now, gently, you step out of the Middle Ages. The stone walls melt away, replaced by glass windows and the quiet hum of modern life. The air shifts from musty to fresh. You hear the sound of running water, the constant murmur of a tap, so ordinary that we barely notice it. Yet here, in this moment, it feels miraculous. Running water, hot and cold, at your command. A shower, pouring down in steady warmth, washing away sweat, dirt, and fatigue. Soap, shampoo, towels, soft and clean. You realize now how far we have come. The struggle of fetching buckets, of heating cauldrons, of fearing sickness from a single bath. All of it is gone. And yet, you carry the memory of those before you. You remember the peasants who scrubbed their hands in cold water before breaking bread. The noble ladies who believed that fresh linen was a kind of magic against dirt. The monks who taught that purity of the soul was more important than purity of the skin. They lived as best they could, with the knowledge they had. So what do we learn from them? Perhaps that cleanliness is more than washing. It is cultural, spiritual, personal. It is shaped by fear, by faith, by science. What was once avoided has become daily routine, and what we now take for granted, they could scarcely imagine. Now listen to the water again. Let it run in your mind. Imagine stepping into a warm bath after this long journey. The water wraps around you, soothing, comforting. You feel safe, cared for, alive in your own time. We have traveled through centuries of dirt, sweat, perfume, and fear, only to return to the present, where we hold the gift of cleanliness, and with it, the gift of health. The Middle Ages taught us that life continues even without baths, but our modern age reminds us how precious and beautiful water truly is. So tonight, as you rest, let the echoes of the past fade like candle smoke. Remember the lesson, but also the comfort of where you are now. The Middle Ages are behind you. The water is before you. Sleep well.